Hey there, Pokemon trainer! How's it going? Minebuild here, and today I'm going to show you how to use Gengar in competitive battles. If you're into strategy and want to step up your competitive Pokemon game, stick with me in this video. I'll break down my analysis of this awesome Pokemon and highlight the best moves to get the most out of it in single battles. And hey, I want to hear from you too. What moveset would you use on Gengar? Drop your suggestions in the comments. If you enjoy this competitive Pokemon analysis, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the Minebuild channel. It really helps the channel grow on the platform. And if you love Pokemon and also play Minecraft, stick around until the end. I've put together a playlist with amazing Pokemon builds in Minecraft, all created by me. Now, let's get started and make Gengar shine in battles. Gengar made its debut in the Kanto region as Pokemon number 94 in the National Dex. It evolves from Ghastly, the first stage, to Haunter, the second stage, and finally into Gengar, its fully evolved form. It's a Ghost and Poison type, a combo that gives it some clear strengths and weaknesses in competitive battles. According to the Pokédex, Gengar stands at 1.5 meter tall and weighs 40.5 kilograms. Its total base stats add up to 500, spread across HP, 60, Attack, 65, Defense, 60, Special Attack, 130, Special Defense, 75, and Speed, 110. Gengar only has one ability, meaning there's no choice here, and it works like this. Cursed Body has a 30% chance to disable the move that hit Gengar for 4 turns whenever it takes damage. This can still activate even if Gengar faints in the process or if the opponent is behind a substitute. However, it won't activate if the damage is absorbed by Gengar's own substitute, and it also doesn't work with Struggle. In the case of multi-hit moves, the disable effect won't stop the remaining hits. It can also affect moves that are called indirectly, as long as they deal damage. Going back to Gengar's base stats, its HP is very low, its attack is also low, and its defense is equally poor. When you combine that with its HP on the physical side, it simply can't take physical hits. Its special attack is very strong, well above average, while its special defense sits around average. Its speed is also high, clearly above average. This shows that Gengar's two main strengths are its special attack and its speed. Gengar takes 2 times damage from ground, psychic, ghost and dark type moves. Against fire, water, electric, ice, flying, rock, dragon, and steel types, Gengar takes neutral damage. On the resistance side, there are some positives. Gengar has 2 immunities, meaning it takes no damage from normal and fighting type moves. It also has 2 4x resistances, taking only 25% damage from poison and bug-type moves. On top of that, it has 2 2x resistances, taking 50% damage from grass and fairy-type moves. Overall, this shows that Gengar has a solid number of resistances, giving it some useful defensive switch-in opportunities. So in summary, Gengar has 4 2 times weaknesses, 2 immunities, 2 4 times resistances and 2 2 times resistances. Even though Gengar has a good number of resistances, its base stats and relatively low impact ability don't allow it to function as a defensive or support Pokemon. That leaves it with a clear role on the team, a special attacker. Gengar is meant to come in, outspeed the opponent, and fire off powerful special moves to take them down quickly. Offensively, Gengar deals super effective damage against grass, psychic, ghost and fairy types. Against normal, fire, water, electric, ice, fighting, poison, ground, flying, bug, rock, dragon, dark and steel types, it deals neutral damage. Alright, let's take a look at the best move options I've selected. Shadow Ball is a ghost-type special move with 80 base power. It has a 20% chance to lower the target's special defense by 1 stage, 33.3%. It is also affected by abilities like Bulletproof and Sheer Force. On Gengar, this is one of its main stab moves. It's consistent, hits hard, and has the added benefit of potentially weakening the opponent's special defense, which helps secure knockouts as the battle goes on. Sludge Wave is a poison-type special move with 95 base power. It has a 10% chance to poison the target. It can also hit multiple targets in double battles and is affected by sheer force. On Gengar, it works as a strong spread stab option, especially in multi-battle formats, applying consistent pressure with solid damage output. Since it's slightly stronger than Sludge Bomb, it's often preferred on Gengar when the focus is more on raw power rather than the secondary effect. Sludge Bomb is a poison-type special move with 90 base power. It has a 30% chance to poison the target. It is also affected by abilities like Bulletproof and Sheer Force. On Gengar, it's slightly weaker than Sludge Wave, but it offers a higher chance to inflict poison. In Gengar's case, raw damage is usually the priority, so Sludge Wave is often preferred. However, Sludge Bomb is still a valid option if you value the higher chance of status over extra power. Dazzling Gleam is a Fairy-type special move with 80 base power. It can also hit multiple targets in double battles. On Gengar, it serves as coverage against Dark and Dragon-type Pokémon, expanding its offensive range. Focus Blast is a Fighting-type special move with 120 base power and 70% accuracy. It has a 10% chance to lower the target's special defense by one stage, 33.3%. It is also affected by abilities like Bulletproof and Sheer Force. On Gengar, it provides excellent coverage against Steel, Dark, and Normal-type Pokémon. However, its low accuracy makes it unreliable, so it can sometimes let you down in critical moments. Giga Drain is a Grass-type special move with 75 base power. It restores HP equal to 50% of the damage dealt to the target. On Gengar, it provides some sustain, allowing it to recover health while dealing damage, which can be useful against bulkier opponents. It's an interesting option because Gengar's high special attack can make this move hit quite hard, and against targets that don't resist it, it can restore a significant amount of HP. Psychic Noise is a Psychic-type special move with 75 base power. It also prevents the target from recovering HP for 2 turns. It is affected by abilities like Soundproof and Sheer Force. On Gengar, it works as a strategic option to shut down healing, making it especially effective against defensive teams that rely on recovery to stay in the game. Dark Pulse is a Dark-type special move with 80 base power. It has a 20% chance to make the target flinch, causing it to lose its turn. It is also affected by abilities like Sheer Force and Mega Launcher. On Gengar, it provides coverage against Psychic and Ghost-type Pokémon, while also offering a chance to flinch the opponent. However, compared to its other coverage options, this is probably the least recommended move on the list. Nasty Plot is a Dark-type status move that raises the user's special attack by 2 stages, 100%. On Gengar, it is one of its main setup tools, turning it into an immediate wall breaker after a single boost and allowing its special moves to pressure or knock out threats much more easily. However, it needs to be used carefully. Since Gengar is not a defensive Pokémon, it can be taken down quickly, so finding the right opening to set up is essential. Now that we've gone through Gengar's best move options, let's move on to the ideal singles battle moveset I've put together for you. After analyzing Gengar's base stats, ability, and move pool, it's clear that it was designed to function as a special offensive Pokémon. Its high speed often allows it to strike first, and its excellent special attack lets it deal massive damage to opponents. With the release of Pokémon Champions, several mechanics have changed, so let's break down how things work now. EVs have been replaced by stat points, SP, but they still function in a very similar way, serving as the main method of customizing a Pokémon's stats. It's also important to keep in mind that Gengar is being considered at level 50, and in Pokémon Champions, IVs are effectively locked at 31 across the board. There is no longer any way to adjust them, meaning every Pokémon already starts with fully optimized base potential. For Gengar, I fully invested its stat points into special attack and speed. The remaining points were placed into HP, since the moveset includes Giga Drain, which provides HP recovery, making a slightly higher HP pool more valuable. The chosen nature is Timid, which boosts speed and lowers attack. Since Gengar doesn't use physical moves, this is the optimal choice to make it even faster. The selected ability is Cursed Body. This ability cannot be changed, as it is Gengar's only option. It is also highly situational and does not provide any meaningful offensive benefit for Gengar. For the moveset, I chose Sludge Wave as Gengar's Poison-type stab, since it offers the highest base power and strong overall damage. Next, we have Shadow Ball as the Ghost-type stab, which is consistent and essential for Gengar's offensive pressure. For coverage, I went with Giga Drain, giving Gengar a way to recover HP while still dealing damage. And finally, the setup move Nasty Plot, which allows Gengar to double its special attack and become an even bigger threat. The first two moves, Sludge Wave and Shadow Ball, are core and generally shouldn't be changed. At most, you could swap Sludge Wave for Sludge Bomb if you prefer the higher poison chance over raw power. As for the third slot, that's more flexible. You can stick with Giga Drain or choose from the other strong options depending on your strategy, including the moves I mentioned earlier or others that Gengar can learn. In this other moves section, I'll keep things more concise. Instead of going into detail about each move, I'll simply recommend a few options that you might find useful when building your Gengar. Let's take a look at some other moves Gengar can learn. On the physical side, Gengar actually has access to a decent variety of attacking moves. However, it can't really use them for damage, since its attack stat is extremely low. For physical move options, I'd recommend Foul Play, Dark, and Knock Off, Dark. On the special side, we've already covered most of Gengar's main options, but there are still a few moves worth mentioning. For special attacking options, I'd recommend Energy Ball, Grass, Hex, Ghost, Psychic, Thunderbolt, Electric, and Venoshock, Poison. Finally, we get to the status moves. It's also worth mentioning a few additional status options. Besides Nasty Plot, which is clearly its best setup move, you can also consider Toxic, Poison, Will-O-Wisp, Fire, and Hypnosis, Psychic, as alternative utility choices. Now we wait for Generation 10 to see if Gengar gets new tools and maybe opens up new ways to be used in battle. I hope you enjoyed this analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.